All right, there we go. Welcome to another episode of the Eviva webinar podcast sort of thing where we just invite patients on. We talk about different stuff about any sort of weight loss procedures out there. Today we have Bruce with us. Bruce, thank you for joining us. By the way, I'm Dr. Brandon Vanderwell. I am a bariatric surgeon by trade, a board-certified general surgeon specialized in weight loss procedures. I do endoscopic sleeve gastroplasties, which is technically a non-surgical procedure, and lots of different types of bariatric surgeries too, and lots of different types of medical weight loss as well. And yeah, I've helped thousands of patients, and Bruce is one of them who has an endoscopic sleeve and is here generously joining us. And also, I just got the notification that Dr. Tan has now become available and is going to join us. So I'm going to just hop her in real fast. Thank you all for tuning in. Hey, Dr. Tan.
Hi.
You just joined in on the live section, so we were just getting through introductions, so your timing couldn't be perfect.
Oh, I'm a little late. All right.
So this is Bruce. I don't know if you probably haven't met Bruce before, but Bruce is a couple years out from his endoscopic sleeve. Kindly joined us, is agreeing to join us, and yeah, Bruce, can you tell us a little, tell us about yourself? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I'm a software engineer and lived in Seattle for 10 or 15 years, and yeah, had issues with weight for most of my adult life, and yeah, and then a few years ago, I kind of got to a critical point, and yeah, ended up having a procedure with Eviva, and yeah, so we can talk about that.
Awesome. Dr. Tan, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. I'm Mimi Tan. I'm the other bariatric surgeon in our practice. So I also do endosleeves, lap sleeves, bypasses, all the works. So happy to be in this conversation with y'all.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Bruce, before you did the endoscopic sleeve, how long were you thinking about doing some sort of weight loss procedure? And what was it that kind of tipped you over that, like, I'm going to reach out now?
Well, I think there's a couple of things I would say that, like I said, I've had struggled with weight issues almost all my adult life, and in the aftermath of COVID, I feel like it kind of got particularly bad just because the things I used to do to stay active, for a long time, people, we didn't do much, right? People were stuck in their houses, and I gained some weight. I was also consuming more alcohol and more regularly, and I think, and then specifically, like I was in a bit of a funk, and then I hurt my back. I'd had back issues for many years. I'm tall. I'm 6'4". Both my parents have back issues, so I've often had back issues. Would probably, even if I had been a healthy weight all of my life, I'd still be at high risk from back issues. But in February of that year, I had a really nasty bout of sciatica where I was off work for a couple of weeks, and this is in real, very serious pain. And it was sort of in this place where I was heavily overweight and in such a state that I couldn't do a lot of exercise because exercise itself tended to injure my back or my knees, and so it's kind of a very difficult place to get out of, right? Because it's one of the things you have to do, or the only thing you can do is exercise to burn those calories and just to be healthier generally. But if exercise hurts you and sets you back, then you're kind of in a really vicious cycle. And then I had this sciatica, and that was sort of a moment. It's like, I have to do something like this. I can't go on living like this.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Since your endosleeve, how much weight have you lost?
So I'm down from, I was probably averaging 310 to 315, and I now reliably between 190 and 195.
That's amazing.
So yeah, 120, 110, 120 pounds.
Yeah, that's a life-changing amount of weight right there.
Yep.
Were you afraid of your stomach being smaller after the endosleeve, and what has it actually been like?
I would say my biggest fear before I did the operation, I would say my biggest fear is that I would do it and then I would not be able to sort of stick the weight loss like I would do it and then relapse. The idea of being smaller did not sort of bother me itself, like, because it, that was kind of the point. My fear is that I would do a thing and then not be able to, like, I would go through this and do all this stuff, and then I would not be able to maintain the lifestyle changes necessary to keep the weight off. And that was my big fear. That has not come to pass, and it's been, two or more years. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I have built the new habits. And this is a thing that you guys were very clear about when I started the process. Like, this is a tool to get you over a hump, down to a healthy weight, and with new habits, different lifestyle, and a bunch of other things have to change too. But it's always like, can I? Long-term performance is always like the hardest thing, right? It's one thing to do something for like a year or 18 months. It's another to make it a lifetime habit. Cautiously optimistic I've managed to do that. But it's, like, if you talk to people who like have had issues with alcohol or something like that, it's like it can be a lifetime journey, really. And that's kind of the way that I approach it, and it has worked so far. So it's like the smallness itself did not really bother me. I will say it is funny because, like, I sort of grew up on a farm, and I kind of grew up in, like, my parents were always like, oh, it's good, it's a sign of like a big, good growing boy, you're eating lots of food. And I had to like you just have to like reconceptualize like what it means to be healthy. And it is a good thing, like, to actually eat less food. Like, we don't actually live in the 1930s. We are not actually starving. It's the opposite of that. We're like, right,
Yes.
we live in a food environment that is trying to make you fat all the time, which is like the exact opposite of where a lot of the norms that my parents and grandparents grew up with, right?
Pretty much all of life on this planet for forever was limited by hardship, was defined by hardship and scarcity. Yeah.
Yes, hardship and shortage, and now we live in the exact opposite, and these norms don't really serve us well. And so you have to like reprogram your brain to just think of yourself as a person who like doesn't finish all the food on your plate, and in fact may well leave a whole lot of it aside. And that's not only fine, it's actually good and necessary. That was probably the hardest thing, just to kind of cast that sort of cultural training aside.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned that, because just last year, at least the data that we have, shows that we have crossed the Rubicon of, we have now more disease burden of excess than of scarcity in the world, not just in the developed world, like everywhere in the world. Childhood obesity is more of a problem than childhood starvation and malnourishment. Especially adult obesity and adult, versus adult malnutrition is it's wild. It is not the world that, we're in uncharted territory, really, from a civilization standpoint. Like, I don't think anyone's ever been in this situation before that we know of. So, wild time.
Indeed.
Yeah. Bruce, what was your recovery like? That's probably the most common question I get from my patients when I see them for the first time for ACU.
You come out of the surgery. My partner, took me home, and you kind of, like any kind of surgical or invasive procedure, your body just, you feel it, right? It's just your body, like, you take a hit, right? It's you just. And then I would say after that, after the initial sort of feeling of just kind of being tired and just a bit woozy, the main thing is that it's just profoundly strange to not eat on a regular basis. Like, because the first few days you start off with like fluids, like, and very small amounts of fluid, and and then you ease into like slightly more nutritious things. It is profoundly, it is a very weird experience because you're at home and normally like people around you are eating like normal people, right? And you're just there. It's like I'm going to sip on this like tiny cup of like electrolytes or sugar-free Gatorade or whatever the exact thing that was prescribed was. It's yes, it's very strange. And then of course you're just you're not pooping out very much because you're eating virtually nothing, and so it's a bit odd because like you're there and you feel normal. You also don't really feel. I did not experience hunger. I was mostly just like, well, there's just food around, and that's just not for me anymore. Won't be for me for several weeks. And so that was the main thing. Is just that was a little bit disorienting. As far as like the actual sort of recovery or pain, I did not experience like any significant I never really felt like pain. Just felt some discomfort and a little like sort of like tightness or so. It just kind of like it definitely felt a little off, as you would expect. And one evening I kind of had like a little bit of a kind of a chill, like sometimes you feel when your body is just like knows something isn't quite right. That kind of passed. But like I said, in terms of pain or anything like that, no, I didn't really experience anything like that. It was mostly just weird. I describe it. It's like I'm just sitting here on these tiny cups of water, and I'm fine. And like it's like so my digestive system almost feels like it's paused just because like there's almost nothing going in and almost nothing coming out.
That's a very common explanation that patients I hear from, which is, especially at the end of the sleeve, where they're like, I'm not really in pain. It's just like, it's kind of weird. Would you describe it as blah? Like, do you feel blah? Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of. I think that's a reasonable way of looking at it. Like it didn't feel like it was not like a big lump in your chest. It was just kind of like general sort of tightness, just after the surgery, and then just like nothing's really happening. You don't have super high energy for the combination of the surgery and because you're just not eating a lot of food, so like you just kind of feel a bit low energy, and it's just a bit weird because there's this whole important part of your life, which is just part of how we live, that just kind of stops for a little while and very slowly restarts.
Yeah, it's as a bariatric surgeon who does lots of the different procedures, it's very interesting to see how any time that you start operating on the GI tract, particularly the stomach, and in the endosleeves case, you have this big stomach, that's this big bag, and you suture it and you crumple it down and you make the surface area smaller that's in contact with food, it does seem to really give a very noticeable experience difference in your relationship with food when that surface area decreases. Whereas exactly like you said, for like a month or more, you're like, I'm not eating very much and I'm fine, and this is really weird. It just flips some switches in there that is very interesting. It's very interesting. I think it's fascinating from a scientific perspective just to see the different experiences between the different surgeries. But yeah, cool. Thanks for describing that. That was a great description of that. Have you ever had any dumping syndrome?
No, no, I have not really. No, nothing like that. I've had. I definitely had some moments early on where I ate a little bit too much food and just like you immediately feel it, and it's like you're just like, oh, yeah, that's plenty. And especially in the beginning when your stomach is just tiny, you don't, you only have to overeat by a tiny bit to really notice it. And so there's that. And then over time, I've had some other symptoms. I think we're going to talk about this anyway, but like I've noticed like a little bit more sensitivity to like acidic, like once I'm back onto a full diet, like more acid stuff. Like I started to notice that coffee started to kind of if I drank a lot of coffee, that upset my stomach, and so I just I started drinking less of it, and that was fine. I think that's the main thing, is just a little more sensitivity to the kind of foods which are already hard on your stomach, but you just perhaps don't notice as much, when you have if you haven't had the procedure. And also I find like my experience is just getting older. I'm in my 40s, like in general, like I used to be able to eat like insanely spicy curries and stuff like that. And before I had the procedure, and I just couldn't tolerate that as much. I feel like as I have got older, my stomach has been a little bit more, tended to get more sensitive before the procedure. I have noticed more of that. How much of that is attributable to just being older versus just versus the procedure? I can't know. But there's nothing I haven't been able to manage. Like I just, if you notice, when I notice foods that upset my stomach, I just work to reduce or eliminate those, and it's fine. It's problem solved. And really, it's only coffee has really been the only one. Another thing that I just like drink less of across the board is alcohol.
Yeah.
I think that was it was interesting. So for the ESG, the pre-op procedure is a very low carb diet, and I'm sure your webinar can explain why that is. But one of the interesting things about that is that's you have to quit alcohol 6 or 8 weeks in advance of the procedure, and along with loads of other simple carbs. And that was a very clarifying experience, because I very quickly, for about 2 weeks, it was weird, and I kind of missed it. And then after that, like, I actually started sleeping better and feeling better, and I think even in some hypothetical universe where I had just like done that, like I think I would have kept, like I have no interest in going back to drinking alcohol with the regularity that I did before the procedure, and that's simply because like it's almost sort of like a mandatory detox before you even get to the procedure.
Yeah.
The low carb thing is done for surgical reasons that I know you can explain, but it also had a very interesting effect that was really eye-opening. Like I would recommend to anybody, whether they go through with the procedure or not, to try like 2 weeks without alcohol, because I did start to lose some weight simply by doing things like that.
Yeah.
And also because I just started sleeping better, and everything in your body actually just kind of works better if you don't drink very often.
Yep. Yeah. Doing dialing in the nutrition piece is a really important piece for sure. And the alcohol part is like, those are one of those liquid calories add up quick too. Yeah, they do.
Yep.
The reason scientifically that we do that we still do a liver shrinking diet with the Endosleeve, even though it's not, the liver's not really in our way, is that, as you probably felt, it was kind of an adjustment to like not be so carb heavy in your fuel sources for all your cells. And we're trying to, number one, get your weight loss going in the right direction, but actually at a cellular level, we want to switch the fuel source from carb heavy to, start using fatty acids and start using protein more, so that the transition, so when you're after surgery, when you're very low calories, we want to really focus on protein. If you're having to go through like that carb, essentially ketosis for the most part, just for that period, it's not going to be forever, but for that period, if you have to go through ketosis while recovering, it's like, I can actually hear it in people's voice when they call me, and they're like, oh, like it has this certain sound, and it's like, I can tell, like, well, how'd your pre-op diet go? Well, I kind of cheated quite a bit, on it. And I was like, okay, well, it looks like we're in carb withdrawal and we're in surgery recovery mode right now. So we're going to just like, we'll try to ease you into it. And we have a little different path that they take, and we get them through it. But, and then the low energy piece, actually, from a science standpoint, is that after the procedure, right, all of those switches get flipped, and your body's all of a sudden like, hey, guess what? Actually, I just remembered I have all this energy back here in the storage tank, and let's go use that. The problem is that it's been a one-way street, and it's only gone in, and it hasn't come out. And you need to go from fatty acid to like ATP, NAD+, FAD, like the molecules of energy currency of your cells. To go from there to here, it needs all these different steps biomolecularly, and they're not built up yet. There's no, it's only a one-way street. It doesn't go this direction. So it takes several weeks for that to get going, and that's why generally people feel like, maybe this was your experience, but most people's experience is, this is going great, it's awesome, and then like 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock hits, and I'm like, I need a nap, because they're just like, they've run out of their short-term energy depot, and it's only going one way. But then that speed builds up, and you get a lot better at metabolizing fatty acids for energy, and then it's just like 6 weeks. It's just like, man, I haven't felt this good in so long. So.
I definitely, that was my experience. Like I said, the first couple of weeks were definitely a little, off of carbs, almost entirely off of carbs and off of alcohol. Were definitely felt weird. But honestly, I actually felt better towards the end of them. Is and my guess is a lot of it was like I was drinking alcohol like multiple days a week, not in like a problematic sort of alcoholic way, but it just sort of had become a bit of a habit. And yeah, it just like it turns out your body just works better with less alcohol, and it's a drug, and it's a depressant and
A poison,
I felt
really.
like
It's a poison.
yeah, and kind of once I got off of that, towards the end of that period, I was actually feeling like significantly, just my overall energy levels were better, I think, because I was sleeping better.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the pre-op diet and the liver shrinking diet. So the mechanics, more or less, of the Endosleeve is that we're reducing the size of your stomach and you're eating less. How do you feel like surgery has helped you? I explained to my patients that surgery is a tool. We don't want to necessarily totally depend on it. It's not a magic bullet, but it does change your eating fundamentally, and there's a lot of coaching that goes into that. But how do you feel like eating has changed since your surgery, and how do you think the ESG has helped you with that?
I think a characterization of a tool, it is the right one. It's basically, it forces you to develop new habits, because it is when you, after the initial, time off work or whatever you need to do to recover, you want to go back to your regular life, and you need calories for that, and obviously you want to be in a calorie, you do want to be running at a calorie deficit to lose the weight that you've built up over the years, but you also need to take in some calories too, and I think so it basically forces you to start laying down new good habits, like you have to eat nutritious food because you get to eat like this much of it, and so yeah, I think it's a tool that sort of like forces you to do the right thing for several months after the procedure. And to me there's kind of like two phases to it. There's like the initial sort of recovery is like, okay, your body recovers from the thing that was done to it, and that takes a week or two, and then it's sort of like building new food patterns where it's like all about like high protein, high nutrient food, and then you just kind of get used to the fact that you can actually live just fine on that, and also you're losing this weight that you've wanted to lose for years. That's the other thing, is just like you step on the scale, and like every week you're losing like multiple pounds, and you're like, wow, like this is actually happening. Like it's definitely like a quality of like sort of going down a roller coaster. You're like, oh, it's actually happening. Like this number is actually going down. Like this thing that has been a barrier like my whole life. It's like, yep, we're actually doing it now. We're going down the roller coaster, and so that was kind of like how I felt about it. It was a combination of like you lose the weight, which at least for many of us, I suspect many of your patients, like people end up going to you because they've tried this before, or they've tried to do things and it has not worked, and you're like, wow, it's actually working this time at an amazingly high rate, and then you're also focused on just like learning these new food things. Like eating this much food, or like pureeing like beef and soup or whatever to make like a whatever the thing is. So, it's so yeah. I think the tool is the right way to think about it. It forces you to think about nutrition in a different way, and while you're doing that, you're also losing a ton of weight.
Yeah, that's a great segue into what does your diet sort of look like now? Like what types of foods do you eat? Because a lot of people, they're like, well, you're gonna just be on like baby food the rest of your life or whatever, and it's crazy. It's crazy what some people think it's gonna look like for the rest of their life. Like I'm just blown away all the time. And also like along that lines, how do you navigate social situations?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So yeah, in the beginning you are very restricted, like just for the first few weeks. So you really do have to manage your food very carefully. But even there, it's like stuff that you can I could bring things to the office. I went back to working in the office after a week or two, and the main thing is like I'm much more intentional about my food. I feel like I've managed to. There's a lot of things. So I'm much more intentional in general. There's sort of like two kinds of situations. There's the ones when you're at home, or like in some other circumstance where you have like full control over your food, and then it's just like I focus on protein intensive things, things that are healthy, but also sort of lower volume. I eat a lot of nuts, and I eat obviously a lot. Like I said, I don't really keep alcohol in my house anymore. I never really drank a lot of soda, so that was never really much of a temptation for me. So like in the areas of food that I control outright, like in my house, I just kind of plan things. Just the only things I buy are high protein, higher fiber, healthy stuff. And then social situations that can definitely be harder. But I feel like part of what you get with the ESG procedure, because like I told my partner and all my friends, I'm like, this is happening. My friends all knew it was happening, and like your friends support you in doing things. You're like, hey, like we're gonna meet up, and just so you know, like I'm barely gonna eat anything, and everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, so you kind of have that in the beginning. Everyone kind of accommodates you. I find your friends accommodate you, and then after a while, like you just kind of like get really good at looking at a menu and figuring out the thing like, okay, well, like this whole menu, you go into a typical American restaurant and the portions are like far bigger than anybody actually needs to eat unless you're like digging ditches all day. And so you look at it and you're like, okay, like, well, you look, I often find that like the best thing to do is like start on the cheapest part of the menu, because like I don't need to eat the giant plates of stuff. And then I'll look at it, I'll be like, okay, well, say it's like a burger and something else, then it'll be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like eat the burger with a knife and fork, just like take the bread off it and just like eat the burger, which in addition to being the protein filled part of it is also the bit that like tastes good anyway. Like so much of the food that we're accustomed to eating, we just tend to eat it because like a burger and fries is like a thing, right? Like someone puts it in front of you and you eat the fries and you just eat the thing they put in front of you. But actually like a huge amount of what's on the plate is just like simple carbohydrate filler that you don't actually really need to eat unless you're like an athlete or you have a very physical job. Like what you actually need is, some protein, some fiber, you want to eat some things that taste nice. We eat a lot of stuff out of habit. Like if you ever like, fries when they're hot taste good. Like fries, if you actually wait like 10 minutes and then like just eat a fry, it's really gross.
Yeah.
It's actually like it's an experiment I would encourage anyone to try, even if you don't do a procedure. Just like someone brings you fries, like nibble on them and a couple on them, wait like 10 minutes, and then try them again. Unless you put some kind of sauce or you have them with something else, like fries themselves
super
aren't
hungry,
actually very good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like I just ate them because people put them in front of me. And it turns out you don't have to do that. Like you can actually just, the procedure really forces you to think about that and says, right, I'm just going to eat the stuff that I need. And it actually turns out that you miss a lot of that other stuff a lot less than you think, because I just don't feel the need to eat all the fries and all the kind of filler on them. It's like I like munch on one or two of them when they're hot and they still taste good. But like after that, like I just leave them. I just have no interest in them, because once you kind of like rewire your brain to like think about what you need rather than like what someone has put in front of you with some kind of obligation. You have no obligation to eat it. It's like you paid for it. I would say on that note, probably the hardest thing is like if you do go to like family functions when like, that can be that is probably, I would say that I would sort of identify three sort of things that are probably the most challenging. One is like family things where someone like has made you a thing and they kind of want you to eat it. In the beginning, that is suddenly easier. You can just be like, hey, I have this medical procedure. I literally can't. My doctor says I can't eat that, right?
Yeah.
Which is both true and a very socially like acceptable excuse. And number two is Italian food. Italian food is just really hard. Like it's just like Italian food is just very carby, right? Like Chinese food, like you can just like eat less rice. Indian food, same thing. Like you just eat the curry and eat a lot less rice. Burgers, you can just eat the meat and you don't have to eat the fries in the bun. Italian, like the pasta is the thing, right? So like Italian is tough. That's like the hardest cuisine. And then so we haven't really talked a lot about counting calories, but obviously that is a core part of the thing. I still count calories daily. Probably like tapas or any other like small plates or family style stuff. that's just like impossible to actually accurately count calories. Like you could be like, I had 10 marinated chickpeas and 3 almonds. Like you can't do that. That's one of those times you just kind of have to let that go if you're going to have that kind of a meal. But I don't eat most people don't eat tapas every day, so like that's fine.
Live and let live, That's about living.
So yeah, those are kind of like, yeah. But like I say, it's in the beginning it's weird, but again, the procedure forces you to do the right thing, and then it just kind of becomes a habit. Like if I order a burger and fries, I just don't really expect to eat many of the fries or much of the bun or anything. I just like get a knife and fork and eat the things that I want.
I had a couple of comments and questions come in from the chat. Sherry, one of our big fans, who turns into all of our webinars. Thank you for tuning in, Sherry, always. Says, waiting for my feeling. She's waiting for her endoscopic procedure, too. She's excited for it. We're getting towards there. We're getting towards it, Sherry. Chris said, is the max level of hunger you experience lower? If you don't eat for a long time, will you still feel as hungry as pre-ESG? It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think I don't really, I do, how should I say this? The way that I feel, obviously very subjective, but like the way that I feel is that I'm much more in control of my food now. There are situations where I do feel quite hungry. Like a couple of weeks ago, I had a totally unrelated outpatient procedure of which I needed anesthesia, and so I couldn't eat, and it was like late in the afternoon, so it's kind of the most annoying time of all. It's like I had to have like no food all day. But in general, I do not experience hunger as strong as I did before, and the max amount of hunger is definitely less. The other thing is I just feel more generally in control of my eating because I manage things proactively. Yeah. Like I plan my meals for the day. There are, when I'm working my regular 9 to 5, like I know I'm going to have so the way I tend to eat in general is I probably eat more like 5 small meals throughout the day. Even now, like 2 years after the operation, I eat probably 5 small meals a day, and so I plan things out more explicitly. When I do feel hunger, I feel more in control of it, and also like the time between my eating is shorter, and so yeah, it never like builds up on me the way that it used to. And the other thing is also eating foods that satiate you, like nuts, like things like that. There are a lot of foods like chips or crisps, right? Potato chips. People will be like, oh, they think like, oh, I need a little snack to tide me over to dinner, and then they have a bag of potato chips. Well, a bag of potato chips will not actually tide you over for more than like 20 minutes because it's all just simple carbohydrates. It goes into your stomach and like just pulp basically, and it won't actually hold you over. If you do need that kind of thing, what you actually need and what you will learn in the procedure and all the food counseling that goes before and after is that if you have those feelings, if you are genuinely hungry and not just like absent-minded or bored, if you're genuinely hungry, you need to eat some real food. So like peanuts, like I've become a big fan of like the on Amazon or wherever, you can just buy the like boxes of like 1 ounce packs of peanuts. You can do it with almonds, pistachio, whatever, nuts, but like some kind of protein. Even like even in gas stations, you can get like the cheese with like some meat or something like that.
Yeah,
like
the rolls.
Eat, if you do have feelings of hunger, you have to learn that you actually need to eat some real food, as opposed to like the cheap food, because that will actually hold you over. If you eat a piece of cheese, if you eat some nuts, that will actually hold you over for a couple of hours if you are genuinely hungry, in a way that a lot of the things that we just have been, a lot of the stuff that is marketed to us, like chips and candy, absolutely will not. So no, I experience much less hunger, partly because I'm proactive and organized about the way that I eat, and just in general, it rarely seems to get to that point.
Yeah, Bruce, it sounds like you've really you've made a lot of mindset changes, which I think is critical. with any of our procedures and with the ESG. And then you've made a lot of like habit changes fundamentally in how you eat and just from your day-to-day life, which is what I tend to see for folks who are the most successful with any of our procedures. Have you had any big challenges since your ESG, you feel like?
Like I say, when I was kind of diagnosing the sort of coffee issues I was having, like I definitely, like I was starting to get, like my stomach would get kind of acidic and that was unpleasant. Like I say, and I just kind of like had to be methodical about like, okay, what is the food or what is the thing that I'm eating or drinking that's causing me to have this discomfort? But I was able to work that out. What else would I say? Oh yeah, so I mentioned three kind of food things I found hard previously. There's one other one, which is when you're traveling like internationally or even like long distance, you fly a plane to the East Coast or something. That can be tough because like you're really not in control of your food very well. Like if you're flying, you're on a commercial airline, right? You're going somewhere and, there's not a lot of great food options. Your schedule is all messed up. It's like, how do you even count calories when you're in like a different time zone to where you start off in? So that's probably another hard situation, is kind of like managing travel can be difficult. But yeah, I think it is, a lot of it is like lifestyle changes and just sort of like you sort of learn to think about yourself as a different kind of, and like I used to think about myself as a person who just like ate lots of food and like that was normal and it was good for me or something, and now I think of myself as a more picky eater and like in the sense of like I'm just more selective about what I eat, and it does after a while, like it changes your sense of self, and if you after a while, like
Absolutely.
it's like
Yeah.
habits there's like habits become character or something like that. Like that does happen after a while.
That's the coolest thing about weight loss procedures is actually that identity change. That story that you start telling about what your life, like the way you narrate your own story in your head and who you are, it changes. And when people really take that, really embrace the tool, it's so cool to see what happens. Yeah.
I would say like the hardest sort of the hardest moments sort of psychologically were sort of when I started to stabilize at about like 190, 195. Then I was like, I didn't want to lose more weight than that because I actually felt like I started to look a little bit bony, and I was like, I actually don't want to lose any more weight. I'm at a great healthy weight. And so I started eating more calories and my weight started to go up a little bit, a bit above 195. And then it's just this kind of like brief, like when that happened, there's sort of this like moment of fear. It's like, oh my God, I'm losing control. Like I'm going to turn into Jabba the Hutt. Like this is, and then it's like, no, I'm just like, and then you ratchet back down the amount of calories I was eating. And then my weight started to go back down again and stabilized. And I basically set in my daily calorie goal has been the same ever since. And I've stabilized between, very consistently in the low 190s. But I say that was probably the hardest thing is like when if this is successful, there will come a point when your weight bottoms out and then like, finding the right equilibrium. And there was definitely just like when it has spiked up, there's just this moment of like fear, like, oh God, am I losing it? Right. Because that's like the great fear. But I feel like that was, 18 months ago or so now, right? I feel like I'm kind of over that hump. But I think like that was probably the single like scariest moment. It's like, oh God, like am I like, does this work? Like, can I get this? Am I going to do this? Or no? Right now I'm just like setting the level down here, but there's like there was a real moment of fear that I'm like, no, I really like this new life. I've got to keep it. And so that was like probably the scariest sort of moment in like a sort of psychological sense. But it wasn't really a problem. It was just like it was genuine fear from the possibility of losing a good thing that I had just finally got after decades of wanting it.
That is that chapter that you inevitably have to enter, which is when you're at the weight that you want to stabilize, and what does that, because that chapter looks very different than the other chapter you just came from. It will go, like at some point the scale will go in the opposite direction. You'll be like, whoa, this is It is. Yeah, it's a different adjustment. So yeah, that's a. Thanks for sharing all that insight, Bruce. That's really really interesting. What are one of your biggest wins that you've had since your Endosleeve?
The main thing I would say is just like my back issues and knee issues, just general level of health, mobility, fitness. Like as part of lifestyle changes, I started doing yoga regularly, and I'm not a big runner. I have some other like unrelated issues that limit my ability to run a lot, but like I was proactive like once I kind of started on the journey and I was eating enough calories to have a more normal level of energy. I definitely went back to kind of like being as active as I could without like overexerting myself, because it's a lot of it is calories, but also it like exercise is good for you generally, like your body. Like we are designed to do stuff. We are not in fact designed to sit in offices all day, and so like even people who are healthy weight, exercise is beneficial even if they don't want to lose weight, because your body just actually works better, and even like your skin and all your everything about works better. So I'd say like my general level of health, specifically like in my previous weights, like I would often experience knee pain, like walking up the stairs in my house, not like agonizing, but like I would just kind of like step wrong sometimes and just like feel it, like that has gone away. I would often in my just like in my hobbies and other things, like I would just have more mobility. I would often like when I was climbing around doing stuff outdoors, I would sometimes just put my back out very easily, and the way I describe it is like my back and my joints used to be in this permanent state of like mild irritation. And so anybody who has experience with back issues knows that like when you get the bad back injuries happen when your back is already slightly injured.
Yeah.
And I was like my whole body was in like a sort of state of my joints and like all the things that are affected by excess weight were in like a state of sort of heightened insult, or they were all on edge, right? So like my knees, when I was walking up the stairs, I'd randomly tweak them. My back, if I was moving around, I could just easily throw my back out. I still do occasionally have back issues. Again, I think I'm tall, and my parents both have back issues, so that's just kind of my lot in life. But the way I have it say it is like now most of the time, like a sort of bad back day for me is like what my everyday used to be. It's like so like most of the time everything's fine. My knees are fine. I very rarely hurt my knees anymore. I can move around the world much more easily. And there's also just like lots of random other stuff that you may not think, like it's like I can fit into airline seats much better. I'm 6'4", right? So airline seats nowadays are tiny, and when you're heavy, you think about your weight as making you wide, and so you're like, oh, I don't want to be in the economy seats because like I'm going to be up on the person next to me. But what you don't think about so much is that like you're actually round.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like if you're tall and heavy, your knees are like jammed into the seat in front of you. And while I'm not going to say that airline seats, economy seats are comfortable because no one likes them, but like now I fit much better into like airline seats or bus seats, like just like riding the light rail around Seattle. Like I used to always sit in like the seats that didn't have seats in front of them, like the ones that face inwards. Because like my knees were like jammed up in the seats in front of me. But now I can actually sit in more seats, not necessarily because I am thinner this way, although I am, but because like actually there's all this fat that's not on my back and thighs and everywhere else in my body, and you actually just like fit into all these spaces, and you're like, oh, this is actually like, turns out for everybody else this was comfortable the whole time. It's just that I had like 30 years of my life where I just couldn't fit into these sort of normal size spaces that everybody else just kind of takes for granted. And you're like, oh, now I can actually like sit in all these places. I can be comfortable in airline seats and on the bus or on the train or something like that. There's just pervasively like more comfort. You move through the world easier because your body isn't inflamed and insulted all the time. And then also like when you are sitting, like everything's more comfortable because you fit into an average size space much more comfortably, even if you're tall. Like I am quite I'm very tall, but I can fit into much more places than I used to. And that's just really nice. It's really nice. It's just a very nice way to live.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Congratulations, man.
That's awesome. Bruce, I love what you said about humans are meant to do things. Because that's really the most beautiful thing to see after surgery is like how you are able to do things differently and better and more comfortably. And most folks don't even realize until they're on the other side. I feel like we hear that a lot, and it's really cool to hear. So, do you have any regrets about having BSG?
Only that I did not do this or something similar to it sooner. I mean, it's for me, it's one of those things like I kind of had to like have this, sort of crisis, this bout of sciatica that is genuinely one of the most painful things that has ever happened to me in my life. There's like a lot of people who have, obviously it's complicated, but like issues with food are in a lot of ways similar to issues with alcohol, where like a lot of people have to get to a crisis point before they actually get a handle on it. That I think was certainly the case with me and food. Like I had this bout where I was just in agony for days on end, and I wish I had just done it sooner because my life is just much better and richer now. Like I'm in better shape and I just move around easier now than I did like 10 years ago. And I'm 10 years older, you wouldn't, but I am in as good a shape. The shape that I'm in, I would put that up against like any shape back to my early 20s. It is like given me, I feel like I'm just a younger person. So yeah, it is. I have no regrets, only that I waited this long to do something about the problem that I had.
Thanks for sharing, Bruce. That was really cool. Bruce, was it, like Mimi said, that saying you said was really cool, that humans are meant to do something. Were you the one that said, I can't remember who this said, told me this now, which said, surgery has added years to my life and life to my years?
I don't think I came up with anything with quite that clever, but I do agree with it. And I absolutely say that. Like I said, genuinely, like I feel better, at this age than I did 10 years ago, and that's a remarkable thing to experience because most of us, most of us, we go through life, our bodies typically just kind of like get a little slower and a little creakier and slower to recover from things, I do feel in a way like I've sort of had an unusual experience in that I've almost had a chance to like rewind the clock on my sort of physical capabilities. Like most people, it's a slope that kind of like slowly goes down, right? That's just the nature of aging, right? Our bodies just don't hold up over time. But I got to wind the tape back, and I'm profoundly grateful for that. I did not come up with that. Wish I could take credit for that.
I'm gonna find whoever said it. But yeah.
I know exactly what that person, where they were coming from. I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, that's the reason that I became a bariatric surgeon. Actually, I was pretty burned out in general surgery residency because people come in have this baseline, and then something bad happens to them, and they show up to you as a general surgeon, and your goal is to get them back to baseline. And what I saw over and over is that the baseline for so many people, because of obesity, it sucks. And I couldn't do anything for that. I could get them back to a baseline, but that baseline was very limited. It wasn't the life, it wasn't, a full healthy life. And then I on my bariatric surgery rotation, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is the opportunity to go score the goal for this person. I mean, general surgery you're playing goalkeeper. You're just trying not to lose, Yep. And this was genuinely an opportunity to like, wow, let's go win this game, And you can really change someone's baseline, which is, it's cool.
So there's some other author I said this like you can't live this life like it's a dress rehearsal for your real life. Like this is the one you get. So like actually my only regret is not doing not doing the procedure I did or something similar, not getting to this place sooner, because like I can't imagine like it's like wow, like all those other people who've been a healthy weight and in good shape all their lives, like man, that they must like that must be really nice. Like I'm glad that I did it when I did. Actually, I wish I'd done it sooner, but that's right. I got this life, and I'm doing it now, and that's all we can do.
Yep. All we can do is play the hand that we got, So, and today, cool. Well, Bruce,
Cool.
It's been amazing having you. Thank you for sharing. And I always appreciate patience, because it takes a lot of courage just to show up at all, to someone like us, like me and Dr. Tan. And
it definitely felt weird at first, just kind of like reaching out, like, am I really doing this? Am I really like one of these people who needs this help? Can't I just do it by myself? And like I say, for me, I had to have a crisis in my life to get to the point, and really in the end, the only person in the end who was hurt by me delaying and psyching myself out about this, the only person the delay hurt was me. And get the help you need.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, thank you so much again, Bruce. It's been awesome having you. Dr. Tan, thank you for joining us as well.
Very cool.
And,
lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
If
all
you're
that.
out there and you're struggling with your weight, we have a lot of tools to help you. And, reach out, evivamd.com. Dr. Tan and I are there, and we love to help people, and really, humans are meant to live. They're meant to do things, and let's go. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great